Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to be talking about how do you cope when your child has a meltdown and you're a special needs mom. We all go through this. It's part of our life. It's part of the routine. It's like oxygen, right? It's like you can't miss it. Our children goes through so much emotions. They are not able to ground themselves. Sometimes a lot of our kids do not speak and they're unable to share the emotions that they're feeling. I mean, let's call it for what it is. We are adults and we can't deal with our own emotions. So how can we expect a child who is much younger, their brain isn't developed, to be able to fully understand the emotions or articulate or demonstrate or just say what they're feeling. So how do you deal with your children's burnout? First of all, it's really about a mind and looking at it as not as your child having a behavior, but really something internally is going on with them, something that they want, something that's bothering them. Sometimes it could be a physical ailment. And if your child is nonverbal, they're not able to articulate it. So a lot of it comes down to us as moms, as special needs parents, really understanding our children, their even the littlest thing that's off about them to really understand what is bothering him. So I'll use an example with my son, Daniel. He is nonverbal, but when he is angry or when he gets upset, most of the times I've been actually journaling and tracking to keep records of when these things are happening is really when he's hungry. When he is not hungry, he's pretty well paced and pretty fine. There's no behaviors. He's a very peaceful young man. So we tend to have him on a meal regimen throughout the day to ensure that he is not getting hangry. I'm suspecting that it could be potentially that his blood sugar is dropping. It's a theory that I have, but I'm not sure. Either way, we are aware at home as well as his caretaker and at school that when Daniel is observed to have any form of change in behavior, it's mostly related to the fact that he's hungry, or sometimes it could be that he's not feeling well. So you're going to find children who are on the spectrum or have a special needs diagnosis, their behaviors tend to exacerbate if they have an ear infection, if they have something medically going on with them, if they're hungry, if they have a UTI, if they're not feeling well, if they're coming down with the flu, it tends to exacerbate certain behaviors. And sometimes it comes out in aggression. Sometimes it comes out with them also striking themselves or punching themselves. So it's just something as a mom, I'm sure other moms can relate to this and are very mindful and having a toolbox to know when to intervene and how to intervene for your child is very helpful. Having a pediatrician that's on call 24/7 is very helpful. Having a pediatrician that understands you and the dynamics of your child and is sensitive and understanding that, yes, it may be nothing that is going on with your child, but you just need that extra sense of peace and comfort and just to be heard by a professional to know that, okay, let's just monitor it. I think he'll be fine. He doesn't need to go to the ER. That having that in itself is very, very important. Having a toolbox for your children. If your children are upset or having pictures or if they use a communication device comes in very handy. That way you're able to teach your child. If your child is feeling sad or happy, you can show them the pick system or the PEC system with different pictures so they can identify their emotions. Or if they're using an app, for example, my son uses the Protocol app and he's able to identify his emotions. If he's hungry, he's able to communicate on the device and it tells us what does he want. When he's home in his environment, my son knows where everything is. So if he's hungry, if he's upset, if something's bothering him, he's able to come and take our hand or help take us to try to in an environment that space to let us know what he wants. When he is upset, we tend to give him a space. Now he does not have as many outbursts as he was when he was younger. He's now 17. When he was preteen into teen, there was a lot of outbursts that we were experiencing. And we actually sought out stem cell treatments and other holistic naturopathic treatments for him, which we have found to be very helpful and help him through the process. Because when they're a teenager, there are a lot of hormones that's going through their bodies and they're not understanding how to deal with that, right? So there's a lot. There's the emotions, there's the hormones, There is the fact that they can't speak. So there's a lot of limitations, and depending on their diagnosis, it also really hinders them. And so we are their biggest support and biggest advocate. So I really encourage you to be in sync and try to better understand your children and have like a toolbox together. And typically, like for my son, his behavior has been seasonal. So there hasn't been anything that's new. So because he's 17, I kind of already know what to expect. Certain behaviors may just show up at a different time in his life, but I already have like a toolbox of things that I know, okay, this is happening. For example, when my sons grind his teeth a lot, I know that maybe his vitamin D level may be low. He tends to grind a lot when his vitamin D is low. So I would increase his vitamin D. When my son decides to throw a pillow, that means he's starting to get hungry. You see in his face the demeanor changes if someone is clacking dishes or a pot or washing dishes. The noise, the sensory, it's just too much for him. And I know, okay, when we are doing dishes, when we are having construction done in the house, I have to put the fan on or I have to put a noise machine on so it distracts him, or I put the TV on. Sometimes even having a television can really upset him because it just overstimulates him. Lighting can overstimulate him. So these are the examples that I'm giving that we experience with things that can trigger my son. And we have things that we do, we put in place to make sure that he feels he's safe and he's comfortable. So I tend to look for the antecedents. What is leading up or what was precipitated before the behavior happens? And that way we can avoid the behavior altogether or the meltdowns, or we can basically help accommodate him and help him through the process and help him feel safe. That's very, very important. Your child should be able to trust you. They should be able to feel safe around us, to know that we are their advocate, that mom gets us or dad gets us, right? Or the caretaker gets us. And so that would help eliminate a lot of the meltdowns. Going out in the public can be overstimulating to our children. And so I encourage you that if you're going out, maybe share with them, we're going out, or show them pictures, not because our children cannot communicate, it does not mean they don't understand, right? I think that's one of the stigma that goes around in society. Well, your child doesn't speak, how do they understand? My son understands when I speak to him. You know, Listen, if I use huge vocabulary, is he going to understand? No, let's be realistic. We're speaking to our children on their level, in their environment, and they're able to comprehend and understand. So I encourage you to, if you have pictures, these are just, again, ways that you can help your child to not have those meltdowns, or if there are, it's not going to be as severe, right? There are going to be times when your child is going to go to an environment and you may think, okay, they're going to be fine. And guess what? Something triggered them and you don't know what triggered them. And so what do you do in that moment is really talking to them and helping them feel safe and comfortable and getting down to their level, whether they're sitting on the floor, right? You get down on their level. Yes, sometimes people stare and that can really, bother us as parents and people steering. So I always tell people, even if you're not a parent who has special needs, the steering, it really doesn't help. Put a smile on your face and just keep walking. We would appreciate the smile. The smile will make us feel is not as outcast as a parent. Again, there are ways to help your children deal with these meltdowns. If you find that the meltdowns are, getting to the point where it's getting worse, so they're hurting themselves or they're hurting others, and you're not able to keep them in a safe environment, I would speak to your doctor. Maybe they need to go on some type of herb that your doctor could recommend, or some type of medications. But I would just be very mindful about medications. Medication does have harsh side effects and can, take your child's personality away from them, right? Again, everything is going to be seasonal. So if your child is a teenager, guess what? If our regular teenagers are going through it, these children who have a special needs diagnosis, they're entitled to go through it as well. We are supposed to be there to help our children. In fact, as much as we advocate for our children, look at it this way. Our children has taught us so much about themselves and their world, and allow us to love them and care for them and nurture them in such a way that we didn't even think that we had it in them. So those are the tips that I would recommend. Really study your child, really journal certain things, really be in sync. Make sure that you're able to have your child feel safe, and whoever is watching them, create that safe space for them. Have a channel of communication for them, whether it's a PEC system, whether it's an app. You know your child best. And so I just encourage you to really, be in sync and dance with your child. When I say dance with your child, meaning when they move a certain way, you should be able to already know how to move to help keep them safe. And that's, when I think of the relationship that I have with my son and how much I know him, I think we're at that point where I can already predict by looking at him, seeing his facial expression, his body language. I already know what's going to go down, how it's going to go down. And so I'm able to move to his rhythm to make sure that he feels that it's safe, that it's okay to have those emotions. But at the same time, it's okay to contain yourself, not hurt anyone else, not hurt yourself. And it's okay to take these deep breaths and breathing out to help in the process, whether it's, massaging your child's inner hand or just simply rubbing his fingers or his shoulders or his head, or even a massage can help to calm that central nervous system. Don't forget to download your free guide, the do it yourself guide that I am giving to you, and feel free to book your free strategy call with me. I look forward to hearing from you, and I hope that you found this video to be helpful. Have a blessed day, everyone.